Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this. So yes, this is the third mockumentary, except it's a real one. It's not a mockumentary, or is it? Metallica, the funniest band in the world. So this is actually an album making documentary, which are normally very dry things, but they're good to watch to get an album. I do remember I watched the documentary there was a Dream Theater album, because Dream Theater music's so dense, and sometimes it can just pass you by as just you need a bit of context and it was the one with the ants. It was the one after Octavarium. I can't remember what it's called now. But I watched the documentary before listening to the album, and it helped so much with getting the album straight away, But it's a very dry piece of entertainment. It's not a movie. It's not, and that's what this actually is, allegedly.
It's supposed to be. Well, I mean, that's how it starts out.
Yeah, except it turns out, it is a farce right from the first moment. And I'm sure that what we see at the start of the movie isn't actually the start, but it starts. It's almost like an EPK. But they invite all the journalists in, and you're not allowed any pens or paper to get some listens to some early tracks. And I assume that didn't really happen at the start because they didn't have anything ready.
Yeah.
But you can see by the look on their faces, this is going to be a terrible album. There's embarrassment. And as people start to nod their heads, trying to be as polite as possible. Because if they've been let into that, they're not going to be the people who are going to say it's terrible. It's like people who get early into movies, or the YouTubers who get to see Star Wars movies early. They're the people who are never critical of anything.
Yeah.
So that's funny. My take on it, okay, I think it's Lars's plan, or possibly like Cliff Bernstein or someone like that, and Lars is in on it, because Lars gives it away. At one point he says this is going to turn out like a shit sandwich, which is a Spinal Tap joke. They had shark sandwich, and they had the 2-word review that said shit sandwich, but it's also unintentionally you've got more sophisticated characters than a movie because they're real.
Yeah,
they aren't really characters, so there's a more depth to it as well. It isn't just funny. So there's these sort of key things that happen through the movie. It's too long, but Jason Newsted quits. That's kind of the start of the story, in a way, isn't it? And we discover, as I think fans already know, it's because James is an arsehole. But then we also discover actually he's not an arsehole, he's an alcoholic. Very early on we see that he's really unstable and he's not ready to cope with any of this, let alone doing it on camera. And that's not very funny at all, really. That's really dark. And it's quite sad that he's got everything and he's not happy. So there is this, in a way it's like Lars put his friend under a bus. in the Lars saw this. They can't make an album. It's going to be terrible. They don't know what to do. This idea of if we film this, it's going to be like Spinal Tap. It's going to keep them in the limelight. It's another Metallica thing of keeping them so huge, which is very clever. But maybe he didn't realise the state that James Hetfield was actually in. So it ended up being much more extreme, maybe, than he thought. I'm sure he thought it was just going to be funny. But then they get a 24/7 psychiatrist to join the band.
He's already joined the band. Well, he's already having sessions with them, isn't he? At the start, it's not like they.
And then they start inviting me in more and more and then they can't. They're like. You can see how he's got them under his spell, and that they're starting to think, okay, we're only going to see you every other week now, and they chicken out of doing it. They say, oh, we're not ready, and then he starts talking about going on tour with them. And there's a bit when they're doing Lars says, well, they're talking about how he does everything. Well, you might as well do the drums as well.
Yeah.
And he says like, oh yeah, I haven't tried that yet. Yeah, that's true.
Isn't he involved in interviewing the new bass player?
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So we got three characters, haven't we? So we kind of talked about James, but Lars is incredibly pretentious. He chooses every word very carefully. I think he actually says that line, but you can see he says things much slower because he's thinking about what you're saying. He's thinking about being on camera and trying to sound smart. And the bit when he's trying to talk about his artworks, and his kids are calling him in the background, "Daddy, Daddy," and he's trying to talk about his art. And I think he's, when they go to Jason Newsted's band, and he's so upset, I can't keep my band together, and he's doing so well. That's not real. He's pretending.
Yeah, Jason Newsted pulls out because it's probably shit.
Yeah, and we hear a bit of it, and it's like, ugh. You got, obviously with Lars, you got the terrible drumming thing, which is really in the film. It's so fantastic, which is part of Metallica, part of the Lars Ulrich jokes, but James Hetfield is clearly not coping with Lars putting on this act. Every time Lars says a line, you can see how it's not him as he would naturally speak. It's him thinking about what should I be saying here on the film, and you can see that James Hetfield doesn't cope with that at all. He's not happy. And then in the background, of course, you've got Kirk. Right, Kirk Hammett is Garth.
Yeah, he's pretty easygoing, cool guy, isn't he?
Yeah. I like to play. And the more you think, more I thought about that. He is Garth. He's actually Garth. And obviously, one of the reasons it's so funny, not only is it actually real, but unlike Bad News, they're a big band, and unlike Spinal Tap, they're not just a big band. They're massive. They're like the 10th biggest selling act of all time, or something like that. And they can't do it. It's all falling apart. It is too long. It sags in the middle because it is a real documentary. It's not a film. I think they should have edited it down to an hour and a half. Actually, it's 2 hours 20.
Yeah, that's 50 minutes, though, Kev.
I would do an hour-long highlights, but it wouldn't be the band's chosen highlights. It would be the funny bits. So I should say there is something me and Sam quote often, which is the best thing ever. There you go.
I would delete it.
I would delete it. I would delete that track. That's his dad. And Lars tries to laugh it off, but he genuinely looks absolutely heartbroken.
Well, I love it when they're in the field and Phil is trying to get Lars to open up about his dad.
Yeah.
And his dad's obviously really uncomfortable about it. And he starts doing stretches in the background.
Yeah, he's looking down at the floor.
Lars is like,
I don't really say it in front of him. He said, what would you say if he wasn't there? Well, I'm not going to say it now.
I don't know. It is difficult with Lars. I think Lars is that kind of. I think he's very dramatic, and he is hyper aware that the camera's pointed at him, and he wants to say something cool. Everything he says is sort of like. It does feel kind of scripted, but I think that's because it comes across as how it would be said in a sitcom.
Yeah.
Almost saying, you're right. There's that line where the other guys in the band, when we made a bit of money, they might put it in a bank. I put it on my wall.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you've pre-thought. That's a pre-thought line. And then there's the bit where he's pacing up and down, and then I realised, I don't know you at all, or something like that. And then
that's the really, really cringe bit when he pretends to have a meltdown and he's not really at all.
You control us when you're not here. You control us. Yeah, you're like, okay, chill out, Lars. But it does make it quite entertaining.
Yeah,
it is. It is better than something you could write. Which is what Spinal Tap was about. It was all sort of like off the hoof stuff.
Yeah. This
is off the hoof of a band, and it is. I remember the first time I watched it, I'd never heard of it, and it came on. I thought, this is Metallica.
Yeah.
I watched it. I could not pull myself away from it.
Yeah.
It was absolutely like. It was mesmerising. These guys, who, as you said, they've been together for like 20 odd years, very, very successful, and they've got a psychiatrist there. This is like a heavy rock band,
Yeah. Of
I
the
love
heavy
bit-
bands, it's the biggest band ever. If you don't include Led Zeppelin, if you say heavy, they're huge.
And I have sympathy for James Hetfield, because when they're doing the what was it, the not the business statement, mission statement. They're reading it and he's like,
was? A what?
he's like,
What's a mission statement? That's a real. What's wrong with being sexy? No, sexist, Nigel. He looks so confused.
that would push me over the edge, I think. They'd be like, hang on, we're a big rock band, you know, and a big part of this is sort of like don't care attitude. We're angry, and here we are. We've got this head shrinker, talking all lovey-dovey and making us write mission statements. Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah. So there's that. So there's the dysfunctionality of the band, which is really funny, and then you've got the story of James Hetfield's breakdown. He had a proper breakdown.
Yeah.
It was like a proper breakdown, and sort of how he coped with coming back into the band. And you suddenly thought, it is a really difficult situation here, because the guy's got a point, you know. There's his family were his priority, and he's got to make sure he doesn't jeopardise that by. It's the band that leads him astray. When it sounds like when they go touring and stuff like that, that's what leads him astray.
Yeah.
It's that lifestyle. He's
what sort of lifestyle?
Insulate himself from that, but that's slightly ridiculous, and it's unfair on the other guys who want to write an album.
Yeah. He's not doing enough hours. He does like 10 till 12 or 10 till 2 or something.
It's 12 till 4.
12 till 4, yeah.
4 hours. And obviously you got Bob Rock trying to hold it all together. He wants to get the album done, obviously, because I don't think he gets paid until the album's. I think he'll get a down payment.
Right.
But that'll be however, and that album took 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
By the time they'd actually.
It's their worst album.
Yeah.
It was always going to be.
So here we go. The intro is the setup. Actually, is sort of like, we've done Black Album, Load, Reload. Now we want to go back to our roots. We've lost our way, so we've hired this. We're not in the comfort of a studio or anything like that. We've hired this military building out or whatever it is, and we're gonna record in there and get our sound back. And what that results in is Lars Ulrich's drum sound on Saint Anger, which is just absolutely awful. It is their worst album. It's the only album I won't listen to.
Yeah, actually, Death Magnetic is a good album. I'm quite happy with that one. And the new one I haven't really given a chance.
I think that's even better.
Right.
I actually think I'll listen to Hardwired Self-Destruct quite regularly. I mean, it's not like groundbreaking or anything like that, but actually there are good songs on there, and it's pretty consistent.
Right, there you go.
Yeah. So it's an amazing thing. I think Metallica do tend to record the album. I'm sure there's a Black Album documentary.
Oh, there's a classic album. Yeah.
So whether it was a setup or not, I don't know, because it does feel like something that they're inclined to do anyway, just record the making of an album.
Yes. I don't know. The fact that Lars is so everything he says is so calculated, and it's like he knew it would wind up James, but it winded him up more than he thought.
We used to sit in my room listening to Nwabam records, and as soon as anyone else entered the room, you could feel the atmosphere changed.
Yeah.
We could only ever get close to that is after we were sitting in a bar, 50 pints, after 50 beers, and then it might start to show itself. But that was after 50 beers, and no one else was there.
It's just pretentious idiot.
Yeah.
I didn't quite watching it before. I was much more critical of James Hetfield, and I just thought he was just being an arsehole, and Lars was just annoying. But I've changed my opinion a bit. In that Lars is so manipulative about it. That must drive you around the bend, being stuck in a band with him, being like that.
I mean, there is an element of James Hetfield being a little bit like.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's basically being unreasonable and all the rest of it.
Not that unreasonable though. I'm trying to think. what was the standout? There wasn't anything really. He was quite reasonable about the Jason Newsted thing, even.
Afterwards, yeah, he said actually he understood.
Sort of, yeah,
he was being too
reflection.
controlling, and yeah, but he wouldn't let him do
they
a solo.
Let him back in.
They weren't doing an album, but he wasn't allowed to do a solo album.
Yeah, I mean it's
absurd.
Pretty unfair.
Yeah.
They did. I mean, I don't know if you think they treated him badly or not. I mean, he did quite well out of it, but it sounds like they didn't really. He was never really a proper part of the band anyway.
Yes, well, he was bullied at the start. It was awful. You know, they made the wrong decision, but that was the thing, wasn't it? That they sacrificed their personal lives and the interrelationships in the band for that success. In that they couldn't stop when
Cliff Burn.
When Cliff died, so they just got another man in, and it was the wrong guy. Really, they got a fan. They shouldn't have got a fan. They should have got another muso.
I actually thought. I mean, for Metallica, he's a perfectly decent bassist. He sort of does the job.
Yeah, that's the problem, though, isn't it? He didn't. There's no personality injected into the band from Jason Newsted. He's playing Metallica, doing Metallica.
But is that because they're not letting him? It sounds like he wanted to do. I mean, he's off creating his own bands, which sounds to me he wants to have an input on the music, and he's not getting it, which is why he's doing this.
Yeah.
And I mean, look what happened on Justice for All.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's not there.
There's an interview where they're laughing about it. We've discovered the best thing to do with bass is to have no bass at all. That's literally what they did. It sounds awful. It's voiced and really loud guitars. But I mean, Justice for All is so much better than this stuff. You know, there's still a lot of creativity at that point. You know, they were really good at writing riffs and great songs. And that was the point where the lyrics started to get better as well. Whereas obviously by the time they're making this album, they have no clue what to do. They don't know what to do. They don't have a reason to do it. There's other than
it's time to make another album.
Yeah, Cliff Bernstein is saying, "Look, time to make an album." I mean, there's that.
Prime.
Yeah, they have to do that radio show thing. I thought it was quite funny. Where they're saying silly things for the radio, and
you're gonna win some money.
Says you need cash, but they were quite, they thought they were sort of selling out a bit, and then they have to do a radio. Notice it's a radio call with Cliff Bernstein. He's not in it.
Yeah,
and he says, "Yeah, you have to do it because that's how you play the game. That you've got to be in the good."
I find it interesting. They're sort of uncomfortable about selling out on that after they've done Load and Reload.
Yeah. They're sold out long ago by then.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're actually... Well, I suppose you could argue that they're trying to get back. And therefore that would make them uncomfortable. It doesn't sit quite right if you're trying to get back to your roots or whatever. Or thrash roots and be more pure.
Yeah, they've played that game for 15 years and they've become ludicrously rich and famous.
Yeah.
So now they're saying, well, do we have to do this? And he says, yes. Do it. You have to do it. Tough. And they're still going to do it. Which must be part of the problem.
Yeah, well, I think they've fought to get themselves out of that at the moment. I think they're pretty completely independent now. I don't think they have a label. They self-produce.
I didn't know they'd left Q Prime. Really?
No, that Q Prime's not a label. It's just their management.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think they're still involved with Q Prime.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I was going to say.
But yeah, they're... I mean, they even press their own vinyl.
Goodness me.
Sort of like, yeah. They must be absolutely frigging loaded.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Silly money.
Yeah. That's right. They own their back catalogue now, so they must have bought their back catalogue at some point.
Right.
Which is what, So they will have cut a deal with Spotify for all the streaming, and obviously the owners of the music got to get a good deal from Spotify. So they must have made a load of money out of that as well.
Yeah.
So Q Prime are actually pretty good.
Well, yeah. I mean, they made all the right decisions for them in a way. They told them this is what you got to do now, and this is what you got to do now, and they did it, and it worked.
was impressed with actually when they took on what's his name, Robert I can never pronounce his name. Trujillo.
Yeah.
So the lawyer had come up with the contract which said you will only have this many voting rights over this period, and then it'll go up. And they said, "No, that's stupid. It's got to be 25 each. Let's just change that."
Yeah.
For a guy just coming into the band, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it shows that they're lost. Really, they don't even know what when they talk about Metallica as a thing.
Oh God, that does my head in.
Yeah, and then they say, "Oh, actually, it's just 3 individuals." Well, yeah.
Yeah, it is. So stop talking about Metallica. Talk about yourselves.
Yeah. But then they give him a check for $1 million, don't they?
Yeah.
You do see right at the start how annoying it all is. Right at the start, they get there's these interviews. They're just tiny little clips of interviews, just a little montage, and the questions are just terrible. How do you keep the energy up after all these years? And well, they don't, do they? They didn't. They blew it. Financially, they completely killed it. Creatively, they're completely disaster. And then he gets asked, "What's one bird to span your whole career?" Why would you? I mean, you get an interview with Metallica with James Hetfield, and that's the question you ask.
How often do you practice the guitar?
Yeah. Right, is it Kirk Hammett? He's a horrible guitarist. I still get. I mean, there's bits when he's playing. All the bends are all wrong, and it just sounds horrible. The idea that he's a good guitarist, and I certainly think Megadeth, Dave Mustaine.
Oh right, yeah.
He's a much better guitarist. He's still a thrash thing, and he does that thing, but he does that really well because he kind of invented it. So that's a thing.
I don't know. I find it. I mean, Kirk Hammett is employed by Metallica to do one thing.
Yeah.
And that's a guitar solo, and he does it.
Yeah.
And they sound all right to me.
Yeah.
You know.
The only time he has a meltdown in the whole movie.
Not allowed to do a guitar solo.
Yeah. Last time, so they've gone out of fashion now. No, which is so Spinal Tap. I think guitar solos are out of fashion now. That would be more of a bad news thing, actually, wouldn't it? If Vim starts telling.
We're not heavy metal. We're sort of that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's more soul. And he has a proper meltdown about you can't do that. You can't take the guitar solos out of Metallica. He's right, of course.
Yeah.
One of the problems with the album is there's nothing on it. It's just some riffs and a man going.
You mentioned Dave Mustaine. His bits are pretty cringeworthy.
Yeah.
Where he's pouring his heart out as if it was the worst thing that's ever happened to him, and people pick on him in the street because he got kicked out of Metallica.
I bet they do. Yeah, but
Really?
the opposite happens as well. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen that brilliant meme about. I don't know if James Hetfield was in a TV show as a policeman or something, where he's interviewing a suspect. You just see stills of it, and he says, "So, what's your favourite Metallica album?" And it says, "Peace Sells," or "Who's Buying," or what, name of a Megadeth album, and you see him, "Listen to you little shit," because that's the thing, is that Megadeth are consistent. They don't do bad albums. Dave Mustaine gets it in that's what they do, and they have to really pretty much stick to that. And it's when they veer off it gets terrible. and that's, I mean, the Black Album in that sense is very good in that it commercialised it, but it still sounded like Metallica. When they're all trying to write lyrics because obviously they're lost. So Kurt writes my lifestyle determines my death style. And then they all laugh. Oh, terrible lyric. And it ends up on the album.
Yeah, it's in there.
Oh, we mentioned mission statement, and James didn't know what it was. Building a Frankenstein. The lyrics, I don't know what the lyrics are. We're going to build the arms and build the brain. I can't remember. But they said, you're building a Frankenstein. And Lars says, what? Yeah, building a Frankenstein, yeah.
Like some kind of monster.
Yeah, a Frankenstein. And it's not a joke. That's actually a Richard Herring joke. A Frankenstein. That's like what's wrong with being sexy. It's that bad, isn't it? It's they're calling it a Frankenstein, and they're not joking.
Can I just say, I made Sarah watch this.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Goodness
I
me.
was convinced that she would actually find it entertaining if she stuck with it a little bit. Yeah, she didn't.
No.
She hated it.
Boring. Okay.
She said, "Why did you ever think I would enjoy this, Sam?"
So there was no. She didn't find the bits funny or anything like that. It
No,
was just a band being a band.
She occasionally said, "Why is Lars being such an idiot?"
Yeah.
That was the level of interaction, basically.
All right. There you go. Yeah. Well, it is a real documentary of a band making an album, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, as we said, there's so much more to it than that. There's the sort of the breakdown of James Hetfield. There's the dysfunctionality of Metallica.
Yeah.
There's it's curious watching guys with that much success and that much money having to make decisions and actually watching them make it with pretty much no thought at all.
Yeah.
It just sort of happens. He's sort of like, Jesus Christ.
You realise they don't know what they're doing. It's just a thing that happened.
And the Phil thing, I mean, it just makes it really that psychiatrist. It is just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Watching a heavy metal band being headstrong.
I mean, not even Spinal Tap could think of that.
No.
They probably would never have come up with that, and it's gold.
Yeah.
It's
And
so ridiculous.
you watch him do all these ridiculous things, like putting stickers on the wall about getting in the zone or something like that. Oh, the only thing you need to enter the zone is belief or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they're saying that they can't operate without him.
Yeah.
And it's not just James who's had a breakdown, you know.
Yeah.
It's all of them.
Yeah. They're all completely lost as people. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, we're looking at an edit, but it makes it look like he's a total con artist. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't seem to. It looks like he didn't help them at all.
He must
He's
have
just
helped them.
saying vacuous quotes. Yeah.
They were paying him $40,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. He persuades them to let him. Yeah, I think I'll have to stay for a bit longer.
Those are some golden words coming out of his mouth, I'm telling you. That is unbelievable. And I could see why they wanted to get rid of him.
You could just Google inspirational quotes, stick them on the wall. That would do his job. That's all he did. Okay, so I think the letdown, the biggest letdown about it is it's too long, so it sags in the middle, and the ending is a bit of a damp squib because it's real. There's no end to the story. It's not worked out as a plot. They just play some music, so you don't really need to see the end. So
the live performance was
yeah. They played a concert in prison. Oh, that's not quite at the end though, but yeah.
No, there's a proper concert, massive concert that they're performing. They released the album, didn't they?
Yeah.
That, I suppose, that is the sort of beginning of the conclusion.
Yeah.
After Bernstein says, those first 4 songs you sold me are dynamite, but if you're going to do that, you want to go all the way, man. You want to sort of keep it going. So it's up to you guys. Obviously, they decided against that.
Well, they must have come out maybe when the documentary finished. The cameras went away. They could actually talk to each other, and they probably realised they've been taken for a ride. And but now they've got all this footage. They have to release the movie, and it's Spinal Tap.
Yeah, I don't think they were taken for a ride. I mean,
or Lars took James for a ride, or
maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, we don't know, is the thing, but it's possible. The sacrificing their personal relationships when Cliff died to keep going and becoming the biggest band in the world, and obviously that everything was timed perfectly because they did it in the 90s. They were releasing albums in the 90s, and people were picking up singles, and obviously they discover Enter Sandman, and that's a great song, and then they discover actually they've got this back catalogue which is gold. So everything was just perfectly timed. Obviously the 90s is the biggest time for bands, so they became enormous. But maybe what we're seeing here is the end of that. So that's the culmination of all that, and how their personal relationships are messed up. 2 incredibly narcissistic, frail individuals who never grew up, and this is them actually reaching the point. Oh, I've actually got to be a human being now.
I mean, I would assume this is watching it. This is the point where bands normally end. This is sort of like 99% of bands don't get through that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they just fizzle out. And
there's so much money involved and so many people involved. They can't. They have to carry on, even if they don't want to. Which you would think they can actually. You think they could let go if they wanted to. They could say, "Well, that's the end of Metallica."
Yeah.
But
they don't want to do it anymore. That is the end of Metallica, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think they're all just too frail to be able to do that, and that's why they carry on. So yeah, I think 8/11s out of 11 because there's some great bits, but for me it will be an hour-long edit of the funny bits and a lot of faffing about. It's too long.
Yeah, I think that the main issue with it is it was, as you say, when they started out, Jason Newsted was left the band, and it was sort of how the band gets over losing a member and stuff like that, which meant that they put all that stuff about going to see Jason's concerts. It didn't need to be there.
True, yeah, and it was completely fake. Having a meltdown was him just putting it on.
And possibly the Mustaine stuff. I mean, the Mustaine stuff is gold for me because the guy comes across as a complete tool,
Yeah.
The guy sold millions of albums and he's crying that he got kicked out of Metallica. Like,
it's ruined my life. And he went off and did another band on his own without the name, and everyone thinks it's better.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right that there could be a lot of editing there. I mean, I got the DVD and there's a bonus disc. I haven't even put that in really. I don't want to watch anymore. So I do love it. I just find it so. I mean, I've watched it a few times now. This must be like fifth time I've watched it.
Same here. Yeah.
I'm gonna go slightly higher. I'm gonna go 9.
9,
just
11.
for sheer entertainment value. Yeah. Unexpected entertainment value.
Cool. Yeah. There we go. That's our mockumentaries.
Yeah. What are we doing next week?
We're doing a Patreon request. Now,
ooh,
we need to be careful here because there's someone talking about there is another Patreon request.
Yeah,
so I'm slightly worried.
I got an email in the week from someone. I haven't read it because I thought I'd read it together because deleted pledges.
Oh, it is okay. The guy that was commenting is the album we're doing, so there isn't another one we've missed. It's okay. Yeah, Robert Clark, Satanic Panic in the Attic of Montreal, and we're going to do the tracks for one time only, never again. We're going to do the tracks.
Yeah. So there's him, Cornelius Fasty. Hello, you two. I had the nice idea of bothering you with another request. Roger Waters' "Amused to Death." That's
a really good idea. I think we should do Roger Waters. We'll do all three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how my board is looking like right now. I probably won't get better though. Daniel Taylor. Hi, hello guys. Love watching the Pink Floyd reviews. Brilliant they were. Thought I'd upgrade to the other tier to hear your thoughts on some stuff. I'd love to see a review of Roy Harper's Stormcock 1971 and possibly in the future review of Jeff Beck at Ronnie Scott's. Keep up the great work as always, lads. Cheers.
That's a live album. So you'll be pleased.
Right.
So it's some songs we've already reviewed and some we haven't played live.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do those, yeah?
Yep.
So we're going to do Roger Waters and we're going to review that Stormcock.
Yeah, so Satanic Panic in the Attic next week. Then we'll do all 3 weeks of Roger Waters. Then we'll do more requests.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think I put Roger Waters anyway.
I mean, it's quite surprising we haven't done it, to be honest.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I've got the Refugee album, which is... this isn't a lockdown thing, is it? Where my brain's not working. I don't know names anymore. Okay, the keyboard player from Yes, the other one, not Rick Wakeman, him. His album...
Patrick Moraz.
Patrick Moraz, yeah. His album before Yes. With The Nice. Actually, it's The Nice, but with Patrick Moraz. And it's really good.
Okay.
So, in about 10 weeks, we'll review that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
When we're back in lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. Are you going to put that in the video?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.